Load it up and have a ball.
The impact the minivan had on North American culture during the 1990s is undeniable. Not even 15 years after Chrysler debuted the boxy K-car-based Caravan, the American body-on-frame station wagon was all but extinct. Due to the minivan's newfound success for Chrysler, Ford and General Motors both went,
"Aw, shit! Iacocca's gonna kick our ass!"
and promptly threw together the closest thing that mildly resembled the silhouette of a minivan. It wasn't until 1994, when the Ford Windstar hit dealership showrooms for the 1995 model year, did the blue oval have a proper competitor to the Dodge Caravan and all of its cousins. This van is a 2001, which makes it a second-generation Windstar, which originally debuted in August 1998 for the 1999 model year and was produced until 2003. And to be honest, this van was outdated when it was new. After all, this was 1999, a very big year for the auto industry, especially in North America. If we compare the base model 99 Windstar and the also new for 1999 base model second generation Honda Odyssey, you can see the point I'm trying to make. For less than $3,000 more, you got a lot more van for your money. 2001 was the first model year to have the larger 3.8-liter Essex V6 as the standard power plant instead of the 3-liter Vulcan. It's kinda slow to rev and doesn't really run that smooth, but it does make 200 horsepower and 240 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPM, actually beating the Odyssey in the torque department. Overall, despite its general mediocrity, it's pretty solid still. The driving experience. I have no other way to put it other than that everything about it is just loose. The steering is loose, the transmission is slushy, and the gear lever isn't much better. When it's in gear and you're pressing the gas pedal, it's just nothing. Oh! And then your head is thrown into the 90s combo seat and headrest at Mach 3. The body roll is quite pronounced, and when you go over a pothole, and by the way, this isn't only unique to the Windstar, it was also like this on my 06 Suburban, God rest its soul. When it dips into and out of the pothole, you can see each individual dash piece move at a slightly different time. The whole package evokes this sense of unrefinement. Not entirely sure if that's a word, but we're rolling with it. Now, with all due respect, this is a 25-year-old car, so it's not exactly in showroom condition. I also think some of it is just that this is an American car from the 1990s. The fit and finish was never going to be spectacular. The type of people who drove second-gen Windstars in the early 2000s were the hockey dads who got into fistfights with other hockey dads because their son got tripped by some other kid on the opposing team during the 2007 local, non-local, international Run for the Cup charity semifinals heritage match hockey game, while his wife loads the heavy CCM equipment bags in the back of the Matador Red 2003 Windstar SC Sport and wonders to herself where it all went wrong. But now in 2026, you really don't see that many Windstars anymore. Other than the gearbox, the main thing that killed these vans was the same thing that killed so many other great cars from this era.
Iron oxide!
Yeah, these vans rust. And they rust bad. They rusted so bad that in 2010, Ford issued a recall on all Windstars model years 1998 to 2003, registered in these US states and later Canada.
Oh yeah, we're talking about this one.
This is ripped directly from Ford's August 2010 letter to dealerships notifying them about the recall. In some of the affected vehicles, the rear axle could potentially fracture when operated in high corrosion areas where salt is used on the roadways during winter months for an extended period of time. If the rear axle should fracture, vehicle handling may be affected, which could increase the risk of a crash. The first recall on US models applied to over 575,000 vans, and when it was expanded to Canada, the number of vans recalled increased to about 600,000. Do I think this recall was necessary? Absolutely! Do I think they did enough in the recall?
No.
That is because the recall only applied to vans built between September 1997 and February 2003. However, the flawed rear axle design that caused over 800 reported accidents was also on the not included in the recall 1995 to 1997 model year Windstars. As you can clearly see on Ford's official OEM parts website, this part number is the rear axle assembly for every Windstar ever built. It's not like people just weren't driving pre-98 Windstars by the time the late 2000s and early 2010s rolled around. Hell, there are still some of these first-gen vans dotted around the continent driving to this day. It doesn't really make sense why Ford wouldn't include the earlier model years in the recall. Really, what they should have done is have the recall apply to all vans built between January 1994 and February 2003. Also, fun fact, in 2015, Ford had to recall the same Windstars from the 2010 recall again, due to the brackets meant to strengthen the rear axle not being installed properly at the dealerships, as you can see on this Transport Canada bulletin from 2016. Now, when it comes to the styling, it's bland, but you can tell Ford was still trying to do something with this design. It's not like it's 1997 Chevy Venture bland. Though it's not officially listed under this design language, the second-gen Windstar has a lot of influence from the New Edge design cars that were coming out around this time. As a matter of fact, you can see a little resemblance to the AU Falcon in the nose. Look at this radio. It's got a cassette player. Hell yeah. Now look a little bit lower. You see those buttons on the bottom? They are printed with CD player functions, which this van doesn't have. This van is actively trying to gaslight you into thinking you can shuffle a cassette tape. Hey, you still here? Okay, great. I'm glad you're still here. Thanks for sticking around. Look a little bit higher on the stereo. You see that CD button? You're probably wondering what it does, considering what I've established about this van's status of CD player installation. And, when you press the button, the CD button on the stereo, it just says no. The rear seat climate controls. You can change the temperature and the fan speed from the front. However, you cannot change the zone from these controls. You can only do that from the back seat. Here's the back seat controls. You can change the fan speed on this knob, the temperature on this one, and also the zone. You cannot have hot air blowing on your face, and you cannot have cold air blowing on your feet. And don't think that you can set the temperature from the front controls and then have the back seat only change the zone, because that doesn't work. Both sets of controls are separate systems that cannot function simultaneously. The second generation Windstar was discontinued in 2003 along with the Windstar nameplate, being replaced by the Freestar in 2004, which added new styling, an updated interior, and a 3.9 and 4.2 liter version of the SX-V6. This van, along with its twin, the Mercury Monterey, which replaced the Nissan Quest-based Villager, had mediocre sales during their 4-year model run and were eventually discontinued in 2007, with Ford exiting the minivan segment, never to return. Despite everything I have said about this van, I would still take this over an EV.